me, first of all, acknowledge my co-honorees tonight, really an extraordinary group of people. Give me a special shout out for you, Janet. America's great teachers are this country's heroes, and I just wish we would celebrate people like yourself who are really doing the work. It reminds me, just so we're fair, I hate to have to follow her. I mean, she's so young, so good looking, had so much hair, and so articulate. This is amazing. Second of all, Lee, I want to thank you and your team for the extraordinary work you're doing across this nation, and all of you for supporting them. It's so important. I can tell you, from kids in New York, you've heard it from others, for what they are doing in terms of touching the lives and engaging kids in our schools, as well as teachers in their programs, is really profoundly important. I used to teach some at Georgetown Law, and I'm so proud that this thing incubated at Georgetown, but now has tentacles throughout the entire country. For me, this award means a lot for two reasons. First of all, to receive an award named after Chesterfield Smith is quite something. As you heard from Bob Jusino, this is an extraordinary man who did so much, not just for the field of law, but for this nation. He had a dignity and a commitment. And what he did at the ABA, the rights of the mentally ill and the mentally disabled, the things that I will always remember. I was privileged to know him not well, but to know him some. And so to have an award with my name and his is truly humbling. But second of all, to get an award tonight from Street Law marries together the two things in my professional life that have really driven what I'm about and touched my passions. First of all, the law as a means for making this a more just and equitable society. You know, right from the beginning we talked about a more perfect union, and that's our work every single day. And street law is engaged in a big way in that work. And second of all, education and the work you have done to touch the lives, as I said, of kids throughout this nation, to make it real, as my kids in New York used to always say to me. So you marry those two things, and you get a fine piece of crystal like this, and it's something, it's something you remember long and often. It's something that will mean to me a great deal throughout my life. But I'd kind of like to end tonight on a sobering moment, and maybe that's entirely appropriate given the state of the room. I don't know. But what I've learned in the last 8 years is that this nation is in trouble because of the fact that we are failing to educate our kids in the way we need to do so. And most of all, we're failing to educate the neediest of our kids. Kids who grew up in poverty, children of color in America. And you know, the world is going to conspire against us if we do not change that. When I grew up, went to public schools in New York City, about 60% of our workforce were high school dropouts. Today, that's no longer possible. So we got three things that are going on. One, for the last 40 years, we have failed to move forward in education in America. We've more than doubled our real dollar commitment, and yet our kids are flat. The rest of the world is moving way past us. If you look at international tests, and you see where China, Singapore, Finland, Korea, Japan, many other countries like Estonia are way ahead of us. So in a global environment, our kids are not just going to have to compete with people in Detroit or people in New York. They're going to have to compete globally. We're flatlined, those people are moving forward. And finally, those 60+% who are high school dropouts, they have no jobs in the 21st century. The 21st century demands an entirely different set of skills. So the America I grew up in, which a poor kid like me who grew up in public housing in Astoria, stood on the shoulders of teachers like Janet to see a world you can't see from the first floor of public housing, to end up in the most public house in America, the West Wing of the Clinton White House. Kids who live the American dream are in peril today of not finding an outlet. This country created the greatest middle class in the world, first by insisting on mandatory secondary education, and after the Second World War on providing through the GI Bill and other scholarships more college opportunity for kids like myself than any other country did. But today we are losing our footing, and we run the real risk increasingly of becoming a country divided with a small entrepreneurial and professional class and a country that becomes an increasing underclass. And so the question I want to leave you with tonight is whether for our generation the American dream will become the American memory, because I think that is the most important question we face. Bill Gates and I, as you've heard from Bob and others, haven't always agreed. But Bill has said, in words that I believe are precious, that the future of this nation, the kind of people we are, our national security, all of those are in play depending on the education. And we can no longer have a country in which your family's income, the zip code you live in, the color of your skin are essentially outcome determinative of the education you get. Think about this. There's not a single person in this room tonight who would allow me randomly to assign your kids to a school in D.C. Think about it. We are fortunate people to be here tonight, and yet we insist that our kids get a good school. But how about those people who have no choice in this matter? Their kids get randomly assigned to a school that may give them no opportunity, to a dead-end school, a school that none of you would allow your children to go to. There's something dreadfully wrong about that. And so forgive me for giving you a little bit of sermon at the end of a great evening. But I really think it's important that all of us understand we have got to become champions in education for the less fortunate. Thank you, and God bless you.